We've got a new trailer for the Disney Plus animated series, X-Men 97. What does the trailer show? We're going to get into that right now. So, Sterling, you're my X-Men expert. You watched X-Men 97 back when it originally aired. And
well,
now
it was just called X-Men.
It was called X-Men.
Yeah.
But
Took place in the 90s.
So they came up with X-Men 97 for the fans that were associating it with the show ended in 1997, correct? The final season?
I believe so. I thought, or 96. I can't remember exactly, but this is a continuation of that series.
Right,
so
right.
That's the entire reason they're doing it. It's in that universe. It's directly linked to that series.
And the trailer gives you a little bit of that, right? So it shows you a TV. You know, we used to have the TVs when they weren't flat screens. Mm-hmm. Remember those days?
Yeah.
For those that are under the age of 25, they don't remember a world with non-flat screens. But they give you this shot of a TV, a tube set TV, where the original X-Men, and it's a flashback to Professor X dying, laying in the hospital bed. And it's kind of fuzzy, the TV screen.
It's showing direct footage from the original series.
How it ended, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I remember, because I did watch it, although I had to kind of get caught up on it, he's sent with Lilandra
to the Shi'ar Empire.
The Shi'ar Empire.
She can save him, so he goes off into space.
Not dead, but needs to recover and go away. So the trailer starts off with that, and then it kind of blurs out, and then we see the first shots of the new series. And right out of the gate, what you see visually, and then the music. You mentioned the music. What jumped out at you that you really liked or that you didn't like?
Well, I love the music. I enjoyed the trailer. Just to give people an idea of how much, of all the things that you grew up with as a kid, you probably have a pecking order of things you liked the most, right? Like for you, it was probably Star Wars. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, in the early '80s, yeah.
But for me, it was X-Men. And it was the original show that got me really into X-Men. I read the comic books a little bit before the show came out, but it was the show that got me really into it. So for me, this is the thing that was the most into as a child growing up. So with that being said, I'm looking forward to it. I want it to be good, but at the same time, Disney has destroyed every single thing they've touched.
No trust at all.
Yeah. So rather it be, Star Wars, the MCU, Willow.
I don't even trust them with Deadpool. I don't. I just don't.
Well, it's just they have such a bad track record the past 3 years.
But, to your point, going back to the 80s with Star Wars, you had Star Wars and then you had He-Man. I'm thinking about toys and cartoons and things like that. You had He-Man, Thundercats, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then X-Men. That took you all the way through the late 90s.
Yeah.
Those IPs were the biggest, the big. With X-Men being in the 90s.
The one that I enjoyed the most, it's what got me into comics. It's what got me into the whole, and that the same time this cartoon was coming out, it was the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont era in the comics, which was the golden age of X-Men. And, with that being said, I look at the trailer, and the trailer overall is good, but then you start looking at certain things
which we're going to pick apart some pieces of it.
Right. You look at the animation quality, which is, at times it looks good. It looks like the old series, but then you look at the detail and the characters. There's criticism that they want to, I guess, desexualize the women.
Right.
Whatever,
and we're going to get into one of those in a minute when we talk about a shot.
You look at the difference in detail. And not only does it just look bad in comparison, but it also feels like there's an agenda behind it, which is just kind of pathetic.
Right.
If you're intimidated by, some women are built like that. It is what it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
So to have them,
Sydney Sweeney, dude.
Well, to have all your women have, flat asses and uniboobs, I don't get the motivation for that.
Yeah, they're trying so hard to get away from the sexualizing and the femininity.
And the difference,
they overcompensate.
And the difference is
people can see it.
That show in the 90s was made for kids.
Yeah,
that was the audience. This show is made for those kids who are now adults who have their own kids.
Right.
So and all the marketing material has been to pander to the people that loved the show originally, who are all now like in their 30s and 40s. So I mean, I don't understand the logic behind that. And then you see some of the comments behind, the people that are behind the show, the showrunners,
Right.
and some of them are just
They need to keep their mouth shut.
well,
They
they're
need to
just
shut up.
far left activists.
Let
and
the
they're just
material
insane.
stand on its own, and people are gonna find out if there's an agenda to it, identity politics, or if there's they're staying faithful to the lore and the story. But one of the things we see in one of the early shots is we see a Daily Bugle paper float by, and you've got on there, it says the Hellfire Gala in the top right corner, and you've got Emma Frost, you've got Banshee, and you've got Dusk, and I don't remember Dusk.
That's a later character. Yeah,
Or is it Dust or Dusk?
I think it's Dusk.
Dust. I'm
It's
not
Dusk.
familiar with that
I'm not
character.
either.
I think I wasn't reading the comics during the Hellfire Gala.
No, that's not that old. That's not old at all. I was, that was well past the time I was reading them. But
So-
I mean, I think that's recent, like within a
that's-
few years. Like
Yeah,
within
that's a
2 or
little bit
3
of an
years.
Easter egg and kind of a connection to the modern comics.
And they're gonna pull a lot from that.
They're going to do that. And so then we get to, there's like a shot of a giant robot arm, and you've got
That's a
like
Sentinel. Sentinel armor.
so that's the Sentinels and Bolivar Trask. And then you've got a really cool shot. To me, the one of the coolest shots, other than we'll get to Gambit and Wolverine in a second, was the temple. You've got the statue of Professor X, and you've got a statue of Magneto. Now, walk us through what you think that is.
It looks like the Savage Land, but I'm not positive. I
So
mean,
where
that's what
basically they view Professor X and Magneto as like saviors, and this is where we're going to meet Mr. Sinister, correct?
Not
something-
necessarily. No, Mr. Sinister was on. He was on. Was it Genosha? I can't remember.
I thought there was something in the comics about Mr. Sinister with Savage Land, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Be
no, I can't
associating
remember.
that
I mean,
wrong.
who knows what they'll actually do with it? But I mean, no, Mr. Sinister had his own. In the cartoon, he wasn't in
And
the
then-
Savage Land.
And then you've got a shot of Magneto standing in front of the UN, which I'm assuming is the trial of Magneto from the comics.
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna take some from that storyline. Even there's been some clips of him in that uniform
Right.
from the comics, so that's obviously probably gonna be something they pull from.
Yeah, and then we've got a shot of them in the jet, and you've got Wolverine speaking for the first time, where he says, "Geez, bub, keep buzzing in my ear."
Yeah.
Some people have been a little ticked off about that, saying it doesn't sound like Wolverine.
Well, it is 100% the same voice actor.
But he's 25 years older.
Oh, I mean, he's 30 years older. He's in his late 60s.
So the voice inevitably changed. Look, James Earl Jones' voice changed as Vader.
I thought
but it is the same actor.
I thought he sounded fine. It's the same actor. All the actors are returning, I think, except Cyclops and Magneto. Those voice actors passed away.
Right.
And I think the people that they got to replace them sounded great.
I thought Magneto sounded really
It
good.
sounded pretty close to the original voice
so
actors who
we
were
get
outstanding.
we then get like an action shot of like the Sentinels, and then you've got the X-Men under them, and it's like a comic, it's like a what if comparison, like 3D shot.
Mhm.
I thought that was pretty cool, but we did see what I noticed for the first time is you see Rogue, and she kind of looks like a guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just bad
That's
design.
the first time it jumped out at me.
Again,
The way they designed the and that doesn't bother me, but it's like, come on, man, like, it was obvious
well, it's just
to me.
It does look like it's somebody went in there and went in there with an agenda, and it just looks bad. It's bad artwork. It does not look good. And like I said, flat butts and uniboobs, not the best design for women. It's just not how most of them are built.
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
don't-
and then you've got a pregnant Jean Grey. So
Which that's the story from the comics, and that will probably be Cable. I'm
baby
guessing.
Cable.
And Mr. Sinister's obsessed with
So
them.
Scott Summers and Jean Grey, have a
Yes.
baby, and
so
it's baby
so
Cable.
that's and that's definitely going to tie in with the Mr. Sinister storyline, I think. So
yeah,
I
and then
think,
there's been a lot of talk before we get to some of the final shots and wrap up. There's been a lot of talk about Morph, and again, people talking, saying Morph is, people involved with the show saying Morph is non-binary and has a unique relationship with Wolverine. So, are we going to see Wolverine in a relationship with Morph, dude? I'm turning the show off if that happens.
I don't think
Sorry,
so.
I don't want to see it. I don't care. Call me.
I don't
whatever
think they're
you
going to
wanna
go
call
that
me,
far, but it is modern crap thrown into the mix. It's unnecessary that appeals to a very small demographic.
Yeah.
And I don't like he wants to have identity problems. That's fine. He's a shapeshifter, and I don't mind the look how he
Yeah,
looks.
but you got to be real careful, like, because
Well, it just becomes preachy and annoying.
That's right.
And if I'm
People
rolling
turn
my
the
eyes
show
when I'm
off.
watching it, it's like that's what they don't understand. It's so obvious, and it's with the subtlety of a hammer to the
and
face.
if they want kids to watch it, a lot of parents aren't. If they know that
They're
and
gonna
it
be like,
gets
"Nope."
out and people do articles about it and talk about it, they're not going to let their kids watch it.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, so we get to some of the final shots and we see a great shot of the team together, and I think Cyclops says "My X-Men," and then you have Gambit running with Wolverine, and he lights up Wolverine's
Claws, yeah.
claws, and
I thought that was cool. I mean, it's
it's a cool
not-
shot.
Yeah, it's
Two of our favorite characters, Gambit and Wolverine.
yeah. I mean, those are like my favorite superheroes. So I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully they at least do them justice. You know.
Yeah. And then we wrap up, kind of a goofy scene, but there was humor in the original series, so I remember that like they're the X-Men have on like basketball uniforms and
it's
they
capturing that '90s era,
yeah.
right?
They,
And
they-
look
yeah, they've been playing
in that
basketball
'90s style,
and they come into the study and
which is awesome. That's a scene from the Jim Lee era of comics. They play basketball and use their powers and stuff.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
wondering if they're actually gonna.
That would be cool if they
Yeah.
show that to bring that kind of humor in.
Yeah, it'll be-
And then Magneto's got the last will and testament and says he's basically what Professor X has is mine. So, you know, as we wrap it up, I liked it. I had some issues with it. There were some things that jumped out at me. The design of some of the characters when they didn't look as feminine. Sorry, I just didn't like it. The issues around Morph that I didn't notice until I read some things after the trailer, so it didn't bother me in the trailer itself.
I'm
but
not going to
by
give up
large-
on it. I'm not going to write it off yet.
No, I'm
I
gonna give it a
love
chance.
the show. I'm going to give it a chance. But if it sucks, we'll tell you.
Yeah, if it gets too preachy, identity politics and lack of storytelling, we're gonna call it out.
There's going to be those who, you know, you've heard the comments. That's what it's always been about. No, it's not. I mean, like no matter what side of the aisle you were on, you always rooted for the X-Men because they were.
And the
mutants.
story, even though there were things about civil rights and about feeling isolated and different and all the things that the X-Men were, it was subtle. The story and the mythology around the X-Men was what made it good. And then they slipped in the subtlety, just like other great stories do, but it wasn't in your face.
Well, it was written in a
lecturing
way
and
that
pandering.
no matter where you stood in real life, you were rooting for them,
That's right.
right? Like that's how it was written.
If they don't capture that, it fails.
Yeah. If they don't capture that and you're trying to call out everyday people and associate with them with certain groups,
Yeah.
that's not going to work out, I don't think. So,
But all in all, I liked it. I'm going to give it a chance. Your final. I mean, you're the huge X-Men fan. Like,
I mean,
what'd you think?
it's one of those things like I have to give it a chance because I mean, that was my favorite show growing up. That was my
Right.
number one. So,
you were like me walking into the theater to watch the Star Wars sequel trilogy and then taking 2 movies before you realize it was crap.
yeah. And then this might be that situation. Like I walked away from Star Wars after Obi-Wan.
did,
I was
yeah.
like, no more because it's just that bad. I can't do it anymore. And this could be my last hope for Marvel was X-Men. Like that was the only thing. And if they get this right, it could save the MCU.
With X-Men live action movies to come, they screw it up. It comes out in March. They screw this up. You're
And
losing
that could
audience.
lead, and that could lead into that. If they don't get this right, I don't have
That's right.
confidence in Deadpool. I realize there's a lot of different people behind
Risk
it.
and reward with this show, even though it's animated.
But if you screw up X-Men, our only hope for Marvel is that Disney sells it to somebody else. So this to me is make or break for Disney and Marvel, in my opinion.
So that wraps it up for the trailer that came out. Let us know what you think. What were the things that you liked most about the trailer? What did you not like? Did anything jump out at you that maybe we didn't cover that you thought was interesting? And while you're giving us your thoughts, make sure to hit that like button, leave us a comment, and hit the notifications bell for future content. And most importantly, hit subscribe so we can continue to grow our channel and TCB.